In April of 1815, a mountain in Indonesia blew itself apart so violently that people 2,000 kilometers away mistook it for cannon fire. Within a year, snow fell in June across New England, crops failed on 3 continents, and Europe suffered its worst famine of the century. The cause? An eruption most people have never heard of. For centuries, Mount Tambora sat quiet on the Indonesian island of Sumbawa. Deep underground, magma cooled slowly inside a sealed chamber, building pressure that reached nearly 5,000 bars at temperatures over 700 degrees Celsius. In 1812, the mountain woke up, rumbling as a dark cloud gathered over its summit. On the 5th of April, Tambora erupted for the first time, and the sound traveled farther than anyone could explain. Detonations were heard on Sulawesi, nearly 400 kilometers away, and in Batavia, over 1,000 kilometers away. Witnesses in Sumatra, more than 2,600 kilometers off, reported hearing it too, mistaking it for cannon fire. 5 days later, at 7 in the evening, the real eruption began. 3 columns of fire rose from the summit and merged into one, turning the mountain into what witnesses called a flowing mass of liquid fire. Pumice stones as wide as a dinner plate rained down, followed by thick ash that blotted out the stars. A violent whirlwind tore through the village of Sanggar, flattening nearly every house and hurling full-grown trees into the air. Pyroclastic flows raced down the mountainside and into the sea, wiping the village of Tambora off the map. The destruction scarred a land area bigger than 800 square kilometers. The eruption moved the ocean too. A tsunami up to 4 meters high struck Sanggar that same night, followed by waves elsewhere across the Indonesian archipelago. Altogether, the tsunamis are believed to have killed around 4,600 people, drowning coastal communities that had no warning the mountain could reach them from so far away. For weeks afterward, the sea around Sumbawa churned with wreckage. Uprooted trees tangled with pumice into floating rafts up to 5 kilometers across. By October, British ships encountered these rafts more than 3,600 kilometers from Tambora, proof of how much material the volcano had thrown into the world. When the ash settled, Tambora had lost 1/3 of its height. Once one of the tallest peaks in the Indonesian archipelago, standing over 4,000 meters, it collapsed into a caldera nearly 7 kilometers wide and up to 700 meters deep. The volcano had ejected around 41 cubic kilometers of rock, weighing an estimated 10 billion tons. Tambora's eruption was at least 10 times larger than Mount Pinatubo's catastrophic explosion in 1991, one of the biggest eruptions of the last century. The energy released was roughly equivalent to 33 gigatons of TNT. On the Volcanic Explosivity Index, Tambora scored a 7, the highest confirmed rating any eruption has reached. Tambora wasn't finished. For months, the volcano kept steaming, and small explosive bursts continued for up to 3 years. Loud explosions were still heard as late as July, and smoke lingered into August. In 1819, the mountain flared again with flames and aftershocks, a final echo of the eruption that shook the world. The human cost unfolded in 2 waves. First came direct violence. Pyroclastic flows and tsunamis killed roughly 10,000 people almost immediately. Then came the slower catastrophe. On Sumbawa, 18,000 people starved to death or died of disease. On neighboring Lombok, another 10,000 perished from hunger and illness. How many people Tambora ultimately killed is still debated. One influential estimate from 1949 put the total near 88,000 deaths across Sumbawa and Lombok. A later review called those numbers unfounded, arguing the true figure was closer to 60,000. Others, weighing famine and disease together, put the toll as high as 100,000. The eruption column punched through more than 43 kilometers of atmosphere straight into the stratosphere. Coarse ash fell back to Earth within weeks, but the finest particles stayed aloft for months, even years, drifting 20 to 30 kilometers up. Winds carried this haze around the entire planet. In the northeastern United States, people noticed a strange, persistent haze that spring and summer. It reddened and dimmed the sunlight so much that observers could stare directly at sunspots with the naked eye. No wind or rain could clear it. They called it the dry fog, unaware it came from a volcano half a world away. Elsewhere, the same haze produced something beautiful. Londoners watched brilliantly coloured sunsets glow orange and red near the horizon, purple and pink above, night after night through the summer of 1815. The painter J.M.W. Turner captured those unnaturally vivid skies on canvas, never knowing a volcano had painted them first. By June of 1816, the haze had done its damage. Frost hit New Hampshire, Maine, Vermont, and northern New York. Snow fell in Albany and in Cabot, Vermont, where it piled up 46 centimeters deep. Quebec City saw 30 centimeters of snow that same week. People were calling it the year without a summer. Global temperatures dropped by roughly half a degree Celsius, enough to shred growing seasons across the northern hemisphere. In parts of Massachusetts and New Hampshire, crops had fewer than 80 days to mature before frost returned. 1816 became the second coldest year in the northern hemisphere in 400 years. The following winter was worse. Temperatures in central and northern New York dropped below -34 degrees Celsius, cold enough to freeze the rivers people relied on to move supplies. That August, snow up to 32 centimeters deep buried freshly planted crops across Europe and North America, crippling the food supply again. Failed harvests triggered a food crisis across Europe that historians call the worst famine of the century. In Germany, grain prices spiked so sharply that demonstrations outside markets and bakeries turned into riots, arson and looting in city after city. In Britain and Ireland, cool temperatures and relentless rain destroyed the wheat, oat and potato harvests. Families in Wales walked long distances as refugees, begging for food. Famine took hold across northern and southwestern Ireland. Livestock died in droves across New England through the brutal winter that followed. The disruption reached Asia too. Altered monsoon patterns brought flooding to China's Yangtze Valley, forcing thousands to flee the coast. In India, the same climate shock disrupted seasonal rains and is thought to have helped a new strain of cholera emerge in Bengal, a disease that would spread across the globe. Decades later, scientists drilling ice cores in Greenland and Antarctica found the fingerprint Tambora left behind, a sulfate spike that dwarfed anything else in 5,000 years of ice. Estimates of the sulfur it pumped skyward range from 10 to over 100 million tons. Nobody linked volcanoes to climate until Krakatoa erupted, decades later in 1883. Mount Tambora killed tens of thousands of people directly and helped starve or sicken tens of thousands more on the far side of the planet for years afterward. It remains the most powerful eruption ever recorded, a mountain that lost a third of its height in a single night. Somewhere beneath the ocean floor, among the volcanoes nobody is watching, the next Tambora is still sleeping.